is Brian from Provision Studios, and today I'm going to make a video that revolves around a piece of software called Vienna Ensemble Pro. And basically what this software does is it allows you to have multiple computers connected via a router in your studio, or maybe not even in your studio, maybe throughout different sections of your facility that send information to your main computer, your host computer, where your DAW is, so that your DAW is only playing MIDI data, and the other computers that are connected with Vienna Ensemble Pro, or vPro as I'll refer to it today, they have all of the soft synths. So they're carrying all of the processor heavy information on them, and your DAW is able to run CPU free of having to run these soft synths. The advantage of this is a couple advantages. One obviously is your DAW computer or your host computer is able to use your CPU for mixing and for audio that is actually on your computer, like guitars, bass, drums, vocals. They can be processed directly on your computer, freeing up your CPU, where soft synths usually are a huge drain. So your performance over on your as you're playing them in, there's virtually no latency at all because your CPU is not having to process all this information. Basically, it's just playing MIDI data, which, as we all know, is very little information. It's just computer information. There's no audio in MIDI. Another facet is if you are loading multiple instruments in a session, we know that it can take time to load these instruments. You could be wanting to create something, and 5 minutes later, you've got all your instruments loaded up, and you're like, oh man, what was I going to play? With vPro or Vienna Ensemble Pro, you literally can load what is called an instance with all the instruments you would normally use, and it's parked and ready to go on your network. And at any time you open your DAW and want to create, all you have to do is connect to that instance of Vienna Ensemble Pro, and you're off and recording. Literally, as soon as you create the track in your DAW, you're able to arm it and start playing. So let's dive into this. It's a real cool thing, but there are some technicalities to it that I wouldn't want to make a video and just say it's cool and not show you how to get it set up properly. So let's dive in. I have my Mac Pro running my DAW. It also is using a Soundcraft Signature 22 multi-track and a PreSonus Studio Live 32 SC as an aggregate interface and control surface. And then on my iMac, I am running Vienna Ensemble Pro 7. And this is what is going to generate all of my sample libraries. Alright, they are both connected to this router. So this router via Ethernet cable has both my computers networked together. And then the sample libraries are on those hard drives. So I'll be pulling data from these hard drives into Ensemble Pro over to making it readily available on my network as I put instruments onto my session. All right, let's dive in and see what we can get. Right now, I'm on my my iMac, which has the Vienna Ensemble Pro Server installed on it, along with the dongle. So the Vienna Key dongle is on this computer because this is a slave computer that is going to be sending data to, actually going to be sending the samples to my Mac Pro, which is my host computer. So the dongle goes on the computer that is running the server software. So here you can see we have Vienna Ensemble Pro, and right here there's a plus button. You would click that to get your new instance, or you start building your instruments. I'm going to show you my sample that I've already created, and you can click File, Open Recent Server Project, and this is, or you can click Open Server Project, and this is where you are going to have multiple instances saved up for different tasks. Maybe you have one that's strings. Maybe you have another one that's more like electronic instruments. Maybe you have another one that's all percussion. And you'll be able to open these, and these will load the instruments while you go over to your main computer, your host computer, and get creative. So in this case, I'm going to open up my test instance, which is going to load my basic instruments, and it's going to take a minute for it to load. You can see it has 6 channels that it's loading. I'm just going to let it load real quick. And what this is doing is this is loading the samples off of my external studio drive. So there we go. We have an instance of Omnisphere with Adagio transparent strings warm already loaded. And then I have I have 4 instances of the Play software, which is going to be running East-West Hollywood strings. So we're waiting for that to load now, and that's going to show us that soft synth. So all right, here we go. So this is first violin sustained. Let's look at our next one. Now we have first violin staccato. Now we have first violin spiccato. And finally, we have first violin's pizzicato. So all 4 of those instances of this instrument with different samples are already preloaded. All right. So on each instrument, you want to click on the All button so that this sends out the MIDI signal to all channels. And then right next to it, you're going to see MIDI channel. You're going to start from your first instrument and have it be 1. Your second instrument is going to be 2, 3, 4, and 5 in order. And then on your output, you want to make sure that you start with output 3, 4. And then you're going to go down to your next one is 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And you'll do that for as many instruments as you want to load. So that's going to be it for our server. Now all the instruments are loaded. We're going to be able to go over to our host computer, which is my Mac Pro, and create a new session and be able to access all these instruments with virtual no latency and no processing dip on my host computer. Let's go over there and check it out. All right, so here we are back on my Mac Pro. We are going to open a session in Studio One, and we are going to bring in some MIDI tracks, and I'm going to show you how to connect to the our Vienna Pro server. All right, so here we are inside Studio One. First thing you want to do is drag in Vienna Ensemble Pro, the instrument. So I'm just going to click on it right here and just drag it over into Studio One. All right, so first thing we get is this connection window. So this is telling me that we are not connected right now to any networked computer. So I'm going to click on connect, and you're going to see right here 10.0.0.2 is my iMac, and here is my test instance. I'm going to click on it and click connect. So there we are. Right now I am connected to my iMac over my router. So the next thing I'm going to want to do is I'm going to want to create the MIDI tracks for all of my instruments. So I'm going to click on add tracks, and I'm going to want to add, let's do 4 more. We're going to add 4 to the original one we already have. So we'll call these East-West Violin. All right, let's click OK. All right, so we have our 5 instruments. All right, First thing I'm going to do on my tracks I just created, I'm going to choose Vienna Pro as the instrument. So I got that one. I'm going to choose channel 2. Vienna Ensemble Pro there. I'm going to choose channel 3. Ensemble Pro. Again, choose channel 4. And finally, I'm going to select it on here and choose channel 5. So that will mirror the instrument and channel routing we selected over on Vienna Ensemble Pro Server. All right, next I want to open up my mixer and I want to click on my Vienna Ensemble Pro instrument and I want to enable all these outputs. So if you remember, we went up to 1112. So there we go. There are all of our instruments. All right, now I can name these. Okay, so let's say I want to start off with Omnisphere. That's 3-4. I can rename all of these. It's Omnisphere. 5-6 was sus violin. 7-8 was staccato violin. 9-10 was spiccato violin. And finally, 11-12 was pizzicato violin. All right. So I can go on this, and now if I go over to my keyboard, I'll be able to play Omnisphere. And then if I go over to my next track, I'm going to get the sus violin. So let's check that one out. This is East-West, by the way. I could go to the next instrument. This one is going to be the staccato. Next will be spiccato. And finally, we'll have a pizzicato violin. With no latency. So again, it's because all I'm doing in my DAW right now is transmitting MIDI data back and forth. The actual sample information is being pulled from my Cat5 cable via network by my network router. So there is no strain on my CPU right now. There is, you can see it right here on performance. There is, my CPU is using 8%, and even when I play, there's nothing going on my actual. Now let me load some instruments that are not over there. So let me pull up. Let's do my tie. All right, so that already brought me up to 12. I have this set for maximum dropout protection. Protection. You can set this wherever you want, but and you can put what each is used in here. So you can see 5.8 milliseconds of latency. Let's bring in my tie back in. So you can see we went from, this is a heavy use one, and it's probably not really appropriate to use this because it's such a resource hog. In fact, let's take that out. Let's bring in Mojito again. So with we're looking at like maybe 92 milliseconds with these three instruments of latency. And if we take them out, let me select one of the. You see, we're back down under 6 milliseconds of latency, which I can tell you right now, if I was tracking, let's do that. Let's track something. So there you go. I mean, it really shows you the power you can get out of the network setup using Cat5 cable, connecting both your computer that is your slave and your host together via network. They're both connected to the back of my router with Cat5 cable, and they're able to transmit signal information back and forth. Again, there are no instruments that are loaded or sample instruments that are loaded on this computer. This is just strictly the instrument and the MIDI data coming from the keyboard. All of the software sample information is coming from my iMac, being transmitted over network. So that's it. I really was interested in getting this video out to you guys because I use a Soundcraft Signature Series console and a Studio Live 32 SC console that both connect to my computer with USB, which is not the fastest connection type, and there can be a bottleneck sometimes when it comes to working on larger sessions that have multiple instruments. So I was getting to sessions where I would have to commit certain instruments to audio. I don't want to say before I wanted to, but before I normally would. Uh, when I used to have use a FireWire interface, I would have multiple MIDI instruments going and not worry about committing until I had the song done. So if anything I wanted to change or something caused me to want to edit a certain phrase or something, I would go back and say, oh, I'll change it now. When I went and got the Soundcraft and the Studio Live working together, I was having to commit tracks, MIDI tracks, to audio to gain back some of that processing power that the sample instruments were robbing me of. With the Vienna Pro Server, or Vienna Ensemble Pro Server, and the Vienna Ensemble Pro plugin working together over the network, there is no issue at all right now with me being able to have multiple MIDI tracks with software instruments that are preloaded on the server on my slave computer. Just being able to let me create without having to think about, oh, how many tracks do I get? Am I at? Oh, that plugin is a processing drain. You know, Omnisphere. You put enough instances of that in a track, and you are going to have a bog down. Having it over there on the server, there's no issue at all. So, if you have any questions about what I'm doing here, you can leave it in the comment section below, or you can email me at bbuck822@gmail.com. You can also contact me on my website, www.provisionstudios.com, and that's PROVIZION studios.com. I can get back to you there. This is a really cool setup, and I'm hoping that this will get people thinking outside of the usual parameters of having a computer, having your plugins on it, and being stuck with the memory and the processing power of your computer. There's no reason why modern computers can't handle a huge workload. This is how the big guys in Hollywood that do movie scoring. This is how they work. They work off of servers, and they work off of network shared computers. So there's no reason why home studio recording artists that work like you know how I'm showing you here can't gain back the processing power of their computer while using a network router and other computers. All right. I hope everyone has a great day, and I hope you're all staying safe. And I'll talk to you soon. Bye bye now.